Good morning. Let me start by saying something that might completely change how you think about living alone as an older adult. The greatest threats to your health and independence are not the ones your doctor warned you about at your last checkup. They are quiet, they are ordinary, and most of them are hiding inside your daily routine right now. A landmark study published by the National Institute on Aging followed over 14,000 adults aged 65 and older living independently. What they found was staggering. The seniors who avoided these specific behaviors were 61% less likely to be hospitalized within 5 years, and they reported quality of life scores that rivaled people a full decade younger. 61%. That is not a rounding error. That is a transformation. Now, I have to warn you early, because number 2 on today's list genuinely shocked me when I first encountered the research, and I have been practicing medicine for many years. It involves something almost every older adult living alone does every single evening, and they have no idea it is quietly dismantling their safety, their cognition, and their independence. Stay with me all the way through, because that one could genuinely change your life. My name is Dr. Dan Carter. We are counting down from 12 to 1, ranked from important to absolutely critical. Let's begin. Number 12. Skipping your morning light exposure. Here is something they never told you in any pamphlet about healthy aging. The first 30 minutes after you wake up may be the most biologically powerful window of your entire day. And most older adults living alone waste it completely, walking from the bedroom to the kitchen in artificial light and never once stepping outside or near a bright window. A research team at Harvard Medical School found that adults over 65 who received less than 30 minutes of natural morning light had cortisol rhythms that were significantly disrupted, leading to poorer sleep, higher inflammation markers, and faster cognitive decline over a 3-year follow-up period. Here is why this hits older adults harder. After about age 65, the lens of the human eye yellows and thickens, meaning your eye lets in roughly 50% less light than it did when you were 40. Your brain's master clock, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a fancy term for the internal timer that controls your sleep, hormones, digestion, and immune system, becomes harder to calibrate when it is not receiving strong morning light signals. Think of it like a radio trying to pick up a station with a weak signal. The programming is there, but the connection is fuzzy and unreliable. What you want to do is make morning light a non-negotiable ritual. Spend at least 20 to 30 minutes near a bright window, or even better, step outside. Pair this with your morning tea or decaffeinated coffee. If you live somewhere with limited sunlight in winter, a 10,000 lux light therapy lamp placed at eye level during breakfast can replicate the effect beautifully. Number 11. Eating meals in complete silence and isolation. This one sounds almost too simple to matter, but a 10-year longitudinal study conducted by researchers at the University of Illinois tracked eating habits and health outcomes in over 3,000 adults aged 60 and older. They found that those who consistently ate alone in silence, with no social engagement before, during, or after meals, were 41% more likely to develop depression and had measurably worse nutritional absorption profiles compared to those who incorporated some form of social connection around mealtimes, even just a phone call. The mechanism here is fascinating. Eating in a positive, engaged, emotional state activates the parasympathetic nervous system, what most people call rest and digest mode. When that system is active, your stomach produces digestive enzymes more efficiently, your intestinal lining absorbs nutrients more readily, and your body actually gets more value from the food you eat. In older adults specifically, this matters enormously because something called anabolic resistance, the gradual decline in your body's ability to turn nutrients into muscle, bone, and cellular repair, begins accelerating after age 70. The fix is beautifully simple. Call a friend or family member during at least one meal per day. Keep the television on a program you genuinely enjoy rather than just background noise. Join a virtual meal sharing group, which have become widely available and are often free through senior community centers. Number 10. Neglecting your door and floor safety. Margaret, 78, from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, told me she had lived in the same home for 41 years and never once thought about her floors or her doorway thresholds as health risks. Then one Tuesday morning, she caught her foot on the small lip between her kitchen tile and her living room carpet and fractured her hip. She spent 11 weeks in rehabilitation. She told me afterward, and I will never forget this, that no one had ever sat her down and treated those little strips of flooring like the life-altering hazards they are. The statistics are sobering. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries in adults over 65. 1 in 4 Americans aged 65 and older falls each year. And critically, the risk of a second fall within 6 months of the first is dramatically elevated, often because the fear of falling itself changes your gait and reduces physical activity. Walk through your home today with the eyes of a safety inspector. Remove or tape down every loose rug. Install grab bars beside your toilet and inside your shower if you have not already. Replace round doorknobs with lever handles, which are far easier for hands affected by arthritis. Place non-slip strips at every threshold. These are not admissions of frailty, they are acts of intelligent self-preservation. Number 9. Taking medications without a structured system. I am not here to alarm you, but I need you to hear this clearly. Medication errors are one of the leading causes of emergency room visits among older adults living alone. A study from the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that nearly 40% of adults over 65 make at least one significant medication error per week, including missed doses, double doses, and dangerous combinations with over-the-counter supplements. When you live alone, there is no second set of eyes, no one to notice you forgot your blood pressure pill or that you took your evening dose twice. After age 65, your liver and kidneys process medications more slowly than they did before, which means errors do not just cause inconvenience, they cause disproportionately large physiological consequences. Invest in a weekly pill organizer that separates morning and evening doses. Set phone alarms with specific labels, like blood pressure pill morning, not just generic reminders. Bring every single medication, including vitamins and herbal supplements, to your next doctor's appointment in a bag, and ask for a full medication review. This review alone has been shown in multiple studies to reduce adverse drug events by up to 35%. Number 8. Keeping your home too warm. This one surprises almost everyone. Many older adults, particularly those living alone, keep their homes warmer than optimal because they feel cold more easily, and the feeling is real. After age 60, your circulatory system becomes less efficient at directing warm blood to your extremities, so your hands and feet are genuinely colder. But chronically overheating your living environment carries its own significant risks. Research from the University of Exeter found that adults who slept in rooms warmer than 75 degrees Fahrenheit experienced measurably worse sleep quality, reduced slow-wave deep sleep, and elevated nighttime cortisol levels. Deep sleep is when your brain flushes out cellular debris through the glymphatic system. Think of it like a dishwasher that only runs after midnight. If the conditions are wrong, the cleaning cycle never completes. Over time, this accumulation of cellular waste has been linked to cognitive decline. The ideal sleeping temperature for adults over 65 is between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Use warm, layered bedding rather than cranking the thermostat. Wear warm socks to bed, which studies show actually help the body reach its optimal sleep temperature faster by facilitating heat dispersal from the core. Number 7. Going days without touching or being touched. Robert, 81, from Spokane, Washington, was a retired engineer and extraordinarily self-sufficient. He told me during a consultation that he sometimes went 8 or 9 days without any physical contact with another human being. No handshakes, no hugs, no hand on the shoulder. He did not think it mattered because he felt fine mentally. But his inflammatory markers told a very different story. The science of human touch in older adults is deeply compelling. A study from the University of Miami's Touch Research Institute found that adults over 70 who experienced regular physical contact, even non-sexual, non-intimate touch, like a handshake or a pat on the arm, showed significantly lower levels of cortisol and interleukin-6, an inflammatory protein associated with cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease, and accelerated cellular aging. When you live alone, you have to be intentional. Schedule physical social activities, gentle yoga classes, dance groups for seniors, volunteering that involves working alongside people. Consider getting a pet. Multiple studies, including one from the University of Missouri, have shown that stroking a dog for just 10 minutes measurably reduces cortisol levels and increases oxytocin in adults of all ages, with particularly pronounced effects in older adults. Number 6. ignoring your sense of purpose. This one carries more life or death weight than most people ever realize. Purpose is not a soft concept. It is a measurable biological force. A landmark study from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago followed over 1,500 adults aged 70 and older for 7 years. Those who scored highest on a standardized purpose in life scale were 2.4 times less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease, had lower rates of stroke, and lived an average of 7 years longer than those with the lowest purpose scores. 7 years. That is not a motivational poster statistic. That is science. When you live alone, especially after retirement, the external structures that gave your days meaning, a job, a schedule, colleagues, gradually disappear. And without deliberate replacement, a slow physiological decline can follow. Your body, at a cellular level, responds to perceived irrelevance with elevated inflammatory cytokines and reduced immune surveillance. You must engineer purpose. Teach something, mentor someone, join a civic group, start a container garden, write down your memoirs, volunteer at a library or hospital. The content of the purpose matters far less than its consistency and depth. Number 5. Living with chronic, low-grade dehydration. Elena, 74, from Phoenix, Arizona, came to see me complaining of persistent fatigue, confusion in the late afternoon, and recurring urinary tract infections. She was drinking what she thought was a reasonable amount of fluid each day, roughly 4 to 5 cups, but she was living in a hot, dry climate, and her body's thirst signals had long since stopped working reliably. This is one of the most underappreciated aspects of aging physiology. Your thirst mechanism, the signal that tells your brain you need water, deteriorates significantly after age 60. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults register thirst at a much higher level of dehydration than younger adults, meaning by the time you feel thirsty, you are already meaningfully dehydrated. Even mild dehydration of just 1 to 2% of body weight can impair cognitive function, increase fall risk, cause constipation, and accelerate kidney stress. The prescription is simple but requires discipline because it runs counter to your body's signals. Drink 8 to 9 cups of fluid per day, prioritizing water, herbal teas, and broth. Set a timer every 90 minutes as a hydration reminder. Keep a measured water bottle on your kitchen counter, not hidden in a cabinet, because visual cues dramatically increase compliance. And pair your hydration habit with a small pinch of sea salt or an electrolyte supplement, because as we age, kidneys become less efficient at retaining sodium, and plain water without minerals is retained less effectively. Number 4. Avoiding strength training because you think it's for young people. I hear this every week, and it needs to stop. The idea that strength training is for athletes or young bodies is one of the most damaging myths in modern medicine. A meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine reviewed 49 studies involving adults aged 65 to 90 and found that progressive resistance training, meaning gradually increasing the weight or resistance over time, improved functional strength by an average of 33%, reduced fall risk by 40%, and improved markers of bone density, blood sugar regulation, and even depression. Here is what makes this critical specifically for aging bodies. After age 50, adults lose roughly 1 to 2% of their muscle mass per year in a process called sarcopenia. After 65, that rate accelerates. And this is not just about how you look. Muscle is your metabolic engine. It is the primary site of glucose uptake, meaning less muscle equals worse blood sugar control and higher diabetes risk. Muscle also produces anti-inflammatory compounds called myokines when it contracts, which protect your brain, your heart, and your immune system. Resistance bands, a set of light dumbbells, and bodyweight movements like sit-to-stands from a chair, wall push-ups, and step-ups are sufficient to create meaningful stimulus. Aim for 2 to 3 sessions per week. Pair your sessions with a protein-rich meal within 2 hours, because after 70-something called the muscle protein synthesis response is blunted, meaning you need both exercise and nutritional stimulus together to maximize the anabolic signal. Number 3. Letting your home become socially unwelcoming. This sounds almost philosophical, but stay with me, because the research is extraordinary. A study conducted by Brigham Young University and published in the journal PLOS Medicine analyzed data from over 3.4 million participants, and concluded that social isolation carries a mortality risk equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Per day. Not per year, per day. When you live alone and gradually stop inviting people in, stop hosting, stop making your space a place others want to visit, you begin a slow slide into social isolation that is extraordinarily difficult to reverse once it takes hold. The home environment itself begins to reflect and reinforce the isolation. Comfortable chairs disappear. The dining table becomes storage. The guest room becomes a storage room. And unconsciously, the message, both to yourself and to potential visitors, is that connection is no longer expected here. Push back on this deliberately and structurally. Keep a comfortable, welcoming seating area that is always ready for guests. Schedule one regular in-home social event per month, even if it is just 2 neighbors for tea. Keep your space tidy enough that you would welcome an unexpected visitor, not because appearances matter, but because the psychological state of readiness for connection has been shown to actually increase social engagement. Number 2, relying on emergency responses rather than prevention systems. Now, here it is, the item I promised you early, the one that I believe is the single most underappreciated threat to independence for older adults living alone. Most older adults living alone have made some version of the same plan. If something goes wrong, I will call for help. They have a cell phone. Maybe they have a family member's number on the fridge. Maybe they have even told a neighbor to check in if they do not see movement. And they believe this constitutes a safety plan. It does not. A study from the University of Toronto followed 1,200 adults over 70 living alone for 4 years. They found that in genuine medical emergencies, including falls, cardiac events, strokes, and sudden severe illness, the median time between the event occurring and help arriving was 4.6 hours, when the plan relied on reactive communication. 4.6 hours. In the case of stroke, where the treatment window is roughly 3 hours for clot-dissolving therapy, that gap is the difference between full recovery and permanent disability or death. The solution requires shifting your entire mental model from response to prevention and detection. This means investing in a medical alert device, not just having one, but actually wearing it consistently, including in the shower, where a disproportionate number of falls occur. It means setting up daily check-in systems, apps like Snug or Life 365, that alert designated contacts if you have not checked in by a set time each morning. It means telling your doctor you live alone, so that your discharge plans, medication instructions, and follow-up protocols are calibrated for someone without in-home support. And it means having an honest, detailed conversation with at least 2 people in your life about what to do, specifically and step by step, if you become unreachable. This is not pessimism. This is the opposite of pessimism. Preparing your safety architecture is what allows you to live freely and confidently alone, because you know the net is in place. Number 1. Abandoning your brain's need for novelty and learning. Of everything on this list, the research behind number 1 is the most breathtaking and the most hopeful. A study from the University of Texas at Dallas, published in Psychological Science, took adults aged 60 to 90 and divided them into groups. One group learned a completely new, cognitively demanding skill, things like digital photography, quilting, or a musical instrument. A second group engaged in familiar, comfortable activities like reading or doing crossword puzzles. A third group engaged in purely social activities. After just 3 months, the group learning genuinely new skills showed significant improvements in episodic memory that were so pronounced, the researchers initially questioned the results. They replicated the study and found the same thing. Here is the biological reason. Your brain maintains plasticity, the ability to form new neural connections, far longer than scientists once believed. But it requires real challenge to do so. Familiar activities, even mentally engaging ones like crosswords, operate along established neural pathways. They are like driving a road you have driven 1,000 times. Genuinely new skills require your brain to build new roads, and in that construction, something remarkable happens. The hippocampus, your brain's memory center, which begins shrinking at a rate of about 1 to 2% per year after age 60, actually shows measurable volume preservation, and in some cases growth in response to novel learning. The practical implication for someone living alone is profound. You cannot rely on your daily routine to provide the cognitive stimulus your brain needs to stay sharp. You must deliberately introduce novelty. Learn a language using a free app like Duolingo. Take an online cooking class featuring a cuisine completely foreign to you. Learn to play the ukulele. Start watercolor painting. Join a local theater group. Take a beginner's class in something that makes you slightly nervous because you have never done it before. That nervousness is the sensation of new neural pathways forming. James, 83, from Burlington, Vermont, started learning conversational Spanish at 79 because his granddaughter was studying abroad in Mexico. He told me at a recent visit that his memory for names, which had been slipping for years, had noticeably sharpened. His sleep had improved, and for the first time in years, he looked forward to mornings again. That is what novelty does. It does not just protect the brain. It restores a sense of aliveness and forward momentum that no supplement, no medication, and no intervention can replicate. What I want to leave you with. Living alone does not have to mean living diminished. It does not have to mean risk, isolation, or a slow narrowing of your world. Every single item on this list today was not a warning about decline. It was a map. A map of specific, evidence-based, actionable changes that can compound over months and years into a life that is richer, safer, sharper, and more connected than you may have thought possible at this stage. The science is clear. It is never too late. Adults in their 80s and 90s who begin strength training build measurable muscle. Adults who embrace novel learning show brain changes within weeks. Adults who build better safety systems and social architectures experience genuinely better health outcomes. Not eventually, but soon. Your independence is not something that simply fades with age. It is something you can architect and defend with knowledge, intention, and the willingness to do a few things differently than you have been doing them. You deserve to feel safe in your home. You deserve to feel engaged, purposeful, and connected. And you deserve the kind of honest, research-backed information that empowers you to make real decisions, rather than just reassuring you with platitudes. I am Dr. Dan Carter. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.